Hello.
Hi, Raylene. How are you doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Good. I'm so happy to have this session with you. Would you like to introduce yourself to the people out there in TV
I
land?
would. I would. Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Raylene. I am a medium. I work with Erik and I work with my spirit team as well. I have a website. It's angelmedium7.com. You can go there to schedule any session. That's the number seven, not the spelling seven.
Good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'll put that in the links list then. Angelmedium dot I mean 7.com. Okay,
Okay.
that's great.
Eric's very excited, everybody. He's hyper today. He's got that.
Today, he's
He's
hyper
always hyper.
every day. Hi, Erik. I love you.
He says, "Hi, Mama. I love you too." He says he's going to try and calm himself down. A lot of times when he gets hyper, it causes anxiety for me, so I got to tell him to chill out.
Yeah, because you
He
pick up
tells me
his
he's going to
energy.
be at a distance
Yeah.
in his chair. Yeah. He says, "I'll be good." He's sitting in a black chair right now. He pulled in his timeout chair, it looks like.
Yes, his timeout chair was black. There we go. A black timeout chair. Yes, that was it. The
He says, "I'm on my
famous,
best behavior, Mom."
yeah, the famous black timeout chair. Okay, so,
He's saying hello to everybody, and he's thanking everybody for watching the video and being a part of the blog. He's thanking you all for supporting his mom the way that you guys are. He says, "Thanks, everybody." He says, "Right on."
oh, what's he wearing today?
Erik has on a white t-shirt, just like regular white, and then he has blue jeans. They're light blue jeans. His shoes are white with some black stripes on the side of them.
Okay, white.
He's very casual. Just, he says, "I'm normal, Mama."
Well, there's no way that. Are you wearing a short sleeve T-shirt or a long sleeve
Yes,
T-shirt? A short.
it's short sleeve.
Is it
And he has very
like a
scrawny arms.
like a tank top?
Nope, it's like Hanes under
Oh yeah.
t-shirts, like regular t-shirts,
Okay. Okay.
but it is
All
short
right.
sleeve. He looks very scrawny. I don't mean to be rude, Erik. He's very skinny and he's
Mm-hmm.
very tall. He looks like lanky and
Yeah, he's kind of
like,
lanky and all arms
yeah,
and legs.
yeah.
You could,
That's
yeah, that's it. You could not have pulled off all white when you were here, Erik. With your love of getting under cars and putting on lift kits and stuff like that, you would have been a mess. You should have worn all black back then. So,
because you're
Raylene,
right, Mom. He's talking about him having magic, so if he happens to make a little mess on his shirt, he goes, "Magic, Mom, I could just change it in the snap of a finger."
like one of those
But
magic erasers
yes, he
that they
says, "I've got
sell.
those privileges over here."
Lucky. I do washes all the time. I don't know how many loads I do a week, but it's pathetic. Anyway, Raylene and I want to talk about weight problems. And I don't know if you want to talk, Raylene, about just problems with being overweight or underweight too. I was thinking maybe just stick with overweight.
Eric goes, he says, "Mom, we'll go into a little bit about both of them." He says,
Okay.
"Right now, let's go into overweight." He says, America, he says, kind of sucks. He says a lot of Americans are overweight because they have food. Um, they have food there. It's not hard to come across. It's not hard to get. And he says people abuse that. He says that what people do is they abuse food and they abuse eating. He says what's going on is people are emotionally eating. He's talking about the overweight people. He says people tend to eat their emotions, Mom.
Oh.
That's really interesting the way he just said that. It's true.
Mm.
People do tend to eat their emotions.
Mm.
He says stress. He says, "Mom, stress can turn into weight as well." He
Mm.
says if you notice, some people, they're going to get really stressed out and then they're going to go and eat. They're overeating. They're eating their emotions. He says, so what you're doing is you're eating your problems. And that's where weight is coming on from. He says that a lot of people don't realize what they're doing. He's going to give an example. Say if somebody's in a really bad relationship, their spouse is being physically or emotionally abusive. He says that tends to hurt people. He says it's emotional, Mom. It's emotional weight. And if the person's not working through their problem and telling people not to treat them that way or not to do this to them, he says then they're not working through their problems, Mom. He says they're keeping their weight on them. He says, Mom, we have chakras in our body. He says we tend to put our emotional weight down in our chakras. He says people will notice that they have weight below their belly button. He He says you're going to be putting weight in your root, and then weight that's like above your belly button is going to be your third chakra or your second chakra. He says there's going to be people that have like anger or that are really sad. He says that those chakras are unbalanced. He says, I know we're not talking about chakras, Mom, we're talking about weight. He says, but it all kind of falls into the same thing.
Okay,
he says you're putting emotion into your stomach, you're putting emotion into your chakras.
Well, let me interrupt just before I forget this. Will doing something to balance those, like the second, third chakra, help with weight loss?
He says, of course, Mom, it will help with weight loss.
And how do you do that?
The big thing, balancing, he says you can do meditation, balancing your chakras and meditation. And then also communication. He says communicating your problems and then getting rid of the emotional trauma out of that chakra. He says if the trauma is not there to begin with, then your chakra is going to be good and it's going to be spinning. Our chakras spin. I didn't know that they spin like that. I'm just learning that. He says your chakras will be spinning right.
Well, I noticed on iTunes, for example, I'm sure it's on YouTube also, there are a number of guided meditations for chakra balancing. Some are specific for various chakras, so you guys might want to check into that.
There are. You can go on YouTube and specifically put, heart chakra, sacral chakra, whatever chakra it is. You can go on YouTube and find, not YouTube, like Google, and find where each chakra is. It's very self-explanatory.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to learn.
Sure.
So you can figure out where the weight is, if it's above your belly button, then it's going to be your solar plexus. That's where you're holding weight. He says a lot of people are holding their weight in their root chakra. They're just putting emotions down and they're not working through it. And then he's talking about the heart chakra too. He says if your heart chakra is not balanced, your heart chakra is connected to your top 3 and your bottom 3. So if the heart chakra is unbalanced, everything's unbalanced.
Oh.
So if you're having somebody put you down, or if you're in a situation where your heart is being hurt, then guess what, honey? He's calling me honey. He says everything's out of balance.
That's funny.
Well,
so it sounds like, to reiterate, it sounds like you're saying that if you're overweight, that beside balancing your chakras, a couple of important things to do is to be emotionally honest with yourself. Instead of eating your own emotions, reflect and say, hey, why am I feeling this way? Let me reflect on it. And also to be emotionally honest with others and set emotional boundaries. Are those 3 things important?
He says, bingo, Mom, those things are more than important. He says, think of those things as holding your life and presenting your life as it is. He's talking about people needing to communicate. So, guys, if you're having trouble talking to the person that's hurting you or to the person that you're having trouble with, go to a therapist, go to a family member and talk to them. That way you get the emotion out instead of just leaving it there and letting it hurt you. He can communicate with anybody. He says if you don't have that type of system there for you, family or therapist, he says animals, they listen and they don't judge. He says you can sit there and pet an animal and they're going to take away your anxieties, your fears, your worries. He says they have ways of taking them away.
Do they help balance your chakras then?
He says animals don't necessarily help balance your chakras, but what animals do is they take out emotional trauma.
Okay.
And that balances your chakras.
Okay.
Thank you, Erik.
That's interesting. And also, I think it's important, as Erik has said, you've said so many times before, in order to be emotionally honest with yourself and others, you have to understand the sequence of, you have to feel first, kind of identify what you're feeling, and then think. Let that emotion produce a thought, and then react. Let that thought, create a response or a choice. But instead, we just think first.
You react to it.
Yeah, we always just think first. We produce a thought, and then that thought evokes an emotion, and that emotion, which is the terrible way to create reactions, will create a reaction or a choice. You don't want to make choices based on emotion alone. So that's all taught by Erik.
Exactly. Yay! He got his hands like this, and he goes, emotion is energy, people. It's fucking energy. He says, move that energy out and work through the energy, people. He's talking about people that are being underweight now. He says that, yes, Mom, there's actually people there that are really underweight. He says because they experience a lot of anxiety, and it's like they got to force themselves to eat. They're not hungry. Their body's not hungry. He says when your body goes into overdrive, he says you stop giving your body nutrition. Um, Again, it's like he's talking about it being emotional, coming into emotions.
Mm-hmm.
This is from like somebody not getting enough love when they're under.
Oh.
See that. He says they're lacking something, Mom. He says they're lacking emotional support. He says they could
Oh.
be lacking besides vitamins, Eric, good point. He says besides vitamins, Mom, he says they're lacking, something in their life is lacking when they can't put on weight and when they can't take care of themselves like they need to. He says tell the person to think about what they're lacking, whether it's love for themselves or whether it's love for somebody else, or whether they're just lacking wanting to be here on earth. If
Mm.
they really don't want to be here, they're not going to take care of themselves. He says,
Yeah.
so people are lacking things that are having trouble putting on weight. He says therapy people, he's telling people to get like some sort of therapy help, to have some sort of support system in place that's going to help you be healthy. That's going to help you be healthy and help you stop lacking emotional shit.
Well, an animal help in that case?
He says the animals do help. He says because animals make you feel loved. They're so unjudgmental. They're not judgmental, and they make you feel loved and they make you feel like you are wanted and needed. Once you feel like you're wanted and needed by something or somebody, you feel like you have a purpose of being here, Mom. He says so. That's what the animals do help with. Is they make you emotional wise. He says they help you emotionally.
Yeah, and it's somebody you can polish off the Ben and Jerry's Cherry Garcia tub together with. You can share it with your dog, or goldfish, or cat,
He
or
says
whoever.
you can, Mom. You
Monkey.
can do that. But he
Okay.
said
I'm
I wouldn't
kidding.
do
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
that.
That's
He's
interesting.
laughing at you. Um, he says, but Mom, it's not all about emotional stuff. He says, because there are some sicknesses and illnesses out there that cause people to keep weight on them, like thyroid. He says, like thyroid, Mom. He says, that's not really emotional shit. He says, that's more health issues. He says, it's real people. There's health conditions out there that can cause you to have so much weight and that can cause you to lose weight. Also medications. He says that there's medications out there that cause people to gain weight and cause people to lose weight. So he says people look at what you're putting into your body before you put it in there. Erik is telling people to use cannabis oils. He
Okay.
says the oils, he says, it's not going to get you high, people. He says there's strands that don't get you high.
Like
He says, but
CBD
it does.
oil. Yes.
Yes.
Cannabidiol. I don't know. CBD oil.
That fancy word.
Look, Google it. So, yeah, so that will help?
Yes, he says because it helps with chemical imbalance. He says when people have, he says it's also a chemical imbalance when they have this weight that won't come off or the weight that won't come on. He says it's also a form of a chemical imbalance, Mom. And the oils help with the chemical imbalance. He says they fix things. He says it kind of, think of your hormones and your energy being like in a zigzag.
Mm-hmm.
That's going crazy. He wants everything to be straight. With the therapy and what CBD oil will do is balance everything out so you feel centered.
Okay. Any other natural ways to handle weight problems?
He
Natural
says watch what you put into
substances?
your body. He
Yeah.
says Americans, and he's not dogging on Americans in general. He just says Americans have bad eating habits. He says watch what you put into your body, people. He says don't eat pizza for dinner. Don't eat ice cream for dessert. He says you only need a little portion, and if you still feel hungry, chances are it's your brain and it's not your stomach that's really needing the food. It's you wanting it.
Yeah.
So tell yourself you don't need it and kind of don't look at it as a diet. He says don't put yourself on a diet because people don't tend to do really well when they're on a diet because it's forcing yourself to do it. He says do it like in little steps, like feed yourself smaller portions and then don't go back for seconds, but don't think of it as a diet. He says don't put the word diet in there and don't like put restrictions on yourself because then you're not going to want to do it.
Yeah.
He says restrictions to a point, but not hard ones. He says people need to start out small and little because when you do too much at one time, it's overwhelming, and then that's why you're not successful at it.
Yeah. What about exercise?
He says people, if you're only feeding yourself one time a day, you're going to make yourself gain weight.
I know.
Your body is hanging on to the food that you're feeding it because it's worried that you're not going to feed it again, which turns into fat.
Yeah, your metabolism slows down, especially if you skip breakfast.
Exactly, and that's really your most important day. He says breakfast He says breakfast is important because it helps your body and it helps your brain get mobile. It helps
Yeah.
you get mobile, and he says it makes you think. He says you need food to think right, and you need food to act right. So if you find yourself being mad and you don't know why, but you haven't ate today, guess what? You're probably hungry and you're angry
Yeah.
because your body's hungry.
What
Even though
about
you may not feel it, you're hungry. Your body
yeah?
is wanting food.
What
Force
about
yourself, even like nuts or something
yeah?
little, you know.
Yeah. And always never have carbohydrates by themselves. Always have protein with it. Like don't just have crackers, have cheese and crackers. Don't things like that because that modulates the insulin response. And if it's not modulated, you will gain weight with pure carbohydrates and less processed foods. I
That's what
guess.
he was just now saying. He goes, Mom, he says, you're guilty of this processed foods.
Ugh. What about
Putting you on blast.
I know. What about what was I gonna say? I ate breakfast, so my brain should be working. But anyway, oh yeah, exercise. How important is exercise? Because I hate it. I just started kickboxing though.
He says,
Kickboxing, grandma. Woo-hoo! I
Mom,
have a
exercise.
T-shirt that says kickboxing because
And you're
you
going to
might
rock the shit out of that shirt.
yeah because you yeah because you might run out of ammo. And I have another one that says kick like a girl. So anyway, yeah,
That's
I'm liking my kickboxing. But for the others out there, what do you think about exercise?
exercise. He says, exercise, Mom. He says, yes, it's really important for people. Not only for the body, but he says for the brain as well, because it gets your brain moving. That's the best way to explain that to you. He says, your body's moving and your brain is moving, and it's the walking kind of stabilizes you, stabilizes your brain, and gets those thoughts, whatever thoughts are in there. It focuses your thoughts to positive thoughts, and it focuses your negative thoughts to go away. So
Okay.
walking is very beneficial for your brain and for your body. He says, people, you don't need to set yourself up, to do an hour of running every day or to do an hour, a mile, a walk. He says, you don't need to do that drastic. He says, simply getting up and, walking around the block one time or cleaning your house, being mobile. He says, being mobile is what he wants to say. He doesn't want to use the term exercise because a lot of people don't like that. They're
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh
I
shit,
don't.
I don't want to go and exercise right now. I
Mm.
simply don't have time. He says, so use the word mobile. You need to be mobile today. So if you're in an office job, come home and walk around the block one time.
Okay.
Clean your house, before you go to bed. Even if you are tired, clean your area. That way you're mobile. You're getting moving around. So that way
Yeah.
you're not using the term exercise and you don't want to do it. You're thinking, oh, I got to go home and exercise. No, I don't want to do that today.
I got to go home and move. Ooh, I got
Exactly.
to go home and clean my house. Gross. But actually, it's a real good form of active meditation. I weed in my garden. I have a lot of weeds, and it's very, it's very grounding, and also just like doing dishes, doing the
It
wash,
is.
folding clothes. It's a form of
He's
active
calling you
meditation.
weird. He says, Mom,
I
you're
know.
weird. He
Well,
says,
take
who
after
gets
you.
pleasure out of cleaning? I do
Yeah.
too. It's a form of active meditation for me
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
I do
Absolutely.
too. He says, you probably won't find very many men that are going to want to actively clean with you. He says, but yes, it is a form of active meditation, cleaning and moving your body. He says that's kind of a whole nother subject to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
but he says meditating is going to help you get rid of emotional trauma in your body.
Mm.
So meditation, therapist, family, support system, animals. These are all things to help with weight. I know they sound
And
kind of funny.
CBD
You're
oil.
like, how could these things be associated with my weight? They do help alleviate emotional trauma in your life.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have that emotional trauma, Erik says, guess what? You're going to find yourself a lot happier and a lot healthier because you're
Yeah.
not stuffing your face with your emotions. He says you're not eating your emotions. So people start working through your troubles.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't feel like you want to talk to the person that hurt you, he says all you have to do is release that and don't let it hurt you anymore if you don't want to communicate with the person that's hurting you or
Well,
with
easier said than done.
whatever whatever
That's
emotion is hurting you.
that's
He
that's
says
hard to do because
it really,
my situation. I'm going to have a hard time letting go of the problems I'm having with one particular person in my life, who
he
shall
says
remain nameless.
he says, Mom, you will get there and you will realize that you don't need to hold that burden in you anymore. He says when you could think about the situation and it doesn't bother you anymore, or you could think about it and look at where I am from where
Yeah,
when that
There we
Think
go.
of how far you've come. He says that's when you realize that you let something go, that you can look at a situation and see where you've grown from it, or look at where you are now.
So how
That's
can
realization.
others, if they don't have a therapist, if they don't whatever, how can they let go of like a toxic relationship, for example? I mean, it's easier said than done.
He goes, Mom, first off, they got to get out of that relationship if they're still in it.
Mm,
He says they need to find escape. They need to, and it's
yeah,
not all like relationship. He says there can even be like workplaces. He
yeah,
says there's stress in workplaces. People don't realize it, but then they come home and they're eating a crap ton because of the
yeah.
stress from the workplace, or they're not eating at all because they're not hungry. He
Mm-hmm.
says it's a give or take. It could be too much eating or too less of eating.
Yeah.
Um, he says meditation, people. Go into meditation, call upon your angels, your guides, your loved ones, whoever you call to. Ask them to help you release this emotion. He says if you can go into meditation, actually think of the memory that's hurting you.
Mm-hmm.
Think of that, ask them to release it and to let it go. You guys are setting the intention to have that go. He
Okay.
says some people will have a hard time. They'll start to cry. Emotions will come up in meditation. Let the emotions come out. He says crying is really good for people. It's going to help.
I don't know why, but every time I talk to Eric in my office, one of these timers goes off. Is that you, Eric? I don't know why it would do that. Nobody, I didn't even set a time.
He says it's energy, Mom. He
Oh,
doesn't take full credit for it. He says
okay.
that loved ones there and guides on the other
Okay.
side too.
All right. All right. Well, I guess we're at the end. Anything else you want to say, Eric?
He says I fucking love everybody.
Oh,
You're
I
rich.
love you. I love you so much. Raylene, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, just thank you guys for watching and thank you for being a part of the blog with Erik. He's got so much to teach everybody and he's really here to help everyone.
He
So
is.
watch the videos. He says he manipulates energy, people. So if you find yourself on YouTube searching through his videos and something pops up, it's him. He's guiding you to watch the video because guess what? Chances are that video has very healing information for you.
Oh, awesome. All right, so guys, wait till the message is at the end. It'll include Raylene's contact information to remind you. And again, that's www.angelmedium7, the numeral.com. But I will put that on the title page that is to follow. Bye, Eric. I
He
love
says thank
you.
you.
Bye,
He loves
Raylene.
you.
I know.
Bye, Erik.
Bye.
Say goodbye.
Thank
Well,
you, Raylene.
you're welcome. I hope you have a wonderful day.
You the same. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.